Prelims is one of those stages where you may not know the answer, but the answer is right in front of you. The type of questions that can be asked from the syllabus is like limited.
For every student who starts with the mains preparation for the first time, how do you advise them?
Keep writing them as soon as possible. Useful for me also is brainstorming.
That is not what UPSC sees.
Sometimes writing is.
Actually, good point that you said. Have a hobby first.
I like going cycling.
Because now we are seeing there are a lot of people who are getting eliminated just from the CSAT round, right? So how did you practice the CSAT paper?
Another mistake that some people tend to do is they overly rely on some institutes CSAT and then they follow the mock test of only one or two institutes. And then when the actual UPSC paper comes, they second guess them.
Basically in this loop of writing prelims and mains and not qualifying mains, right? So did you ever feel in your...
The exam is testing your endurance. It's testing your mental strength. These are the things I would tell them. And if you are able to find a mentor, I managed to find Umbrella Academy.
First of all, congratulations for
Thank you, sir.
clearing this UPSC exam with rank 774. Yes. So first of all, tell me what is your background, where you come from. Tell us all about it.
Right, sir. Thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be here among my mentors who celebrate and have a moment in my success. And I'm from Chennai and I'm a lawyer by background. I was born and raised in the city, but now I have been preparing for the civil services in addition to the other things I do, which includes sports.
Okay.
So that's a little bit about myself, sir.
So you said you are you are a lawyer, right, by profession, and I also saw in your DAF that you have also done research for Ministry of External Affairs, and you are also a Prometheus fellowship program. Also, you are also part of it, right? So then, why did you choose this UPSC as a civil service as a profession? What was the reason for the same?
So it definitely is. Most people ask me the same question because they see these things as something different to civil services trajectory. But for me, I've always seen these as stepping stones to my journey as a civil servant. So that's why I constantly look for opportunities to be in the government, but also look for opportunities happening across the world to know where our world is heading, to interact with students from other parts of the world, to know more about what's happening, and it also ties in with my goal of becoming a diplomat representing the government of India. So I see them as stepping stones.
Stepping stones, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So when you started with your UPSC journey, you might have had a perception of what UPSC is, right? When you prepared, it would have been a different perception altogether. So how was both of it different?
Right, sir. I think this is one of the reasons I'm thankful to Umbrella Academy as well. Because when I started, I had a very idealistic or a misguided notion of what UPSC is. Okay. I used to think that it was an organization that was going to, hire the best minds of the country, is going to accept them for what they are, or is going to align with what the global best practices are. In many ways, the institution does that, but the exam process is competitive. It has to cater to people from all regions, all parts of the country, and irrespective of background, it has to act as a equalizer. So there is a particular flow and particular expectation that they have from civil servants or aspirants who want to be serving in the country in one capacity. And I think prelims, mains, and interview test that in 3 different ways. Initially, in my idealistic time, when I did not have a lot of help, I thought I could, clear this without guidance or mentorship or even some sort of an assistance. Thus, every step in the way proved that I needed to know more. I needed to look for the exam at what it is and handle it and give the best in that respect. So the prelims was the hardest stage for many aspirants here today, and it eliminates most. And thanks to Umbrella Academy, Sir, Bright Sir and Vikas Sir, who helped me understand what the examiner or what they are trying to look for. So I think that'll be my shift, sir. I still think UPSC still gets the best minds. It teaches them resilience, adaptation. It tests them for not just one time good performance. It tests them across months and their endurance on all 3 different formats. And I think it's been a rewarding journey so far. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. So let's discuss one by one each of these steps that are there. So first you started with prelims, right? So in prelims, when you prepared in your first attempt and then in your third attempt, what are the changes that you brought forth? Okay. What ensured that you get the necessary success for prelims? Yeah.
Right, sir. Sir, UPSC exam, matlab, we used to think we need to be full of knowledge. We need to have so much content from everything, newspapers, books, and so on. So my first attempt was like this. I was filling my mind with everything possible because what if they ask this? I need to know about it. So the focus was extremely on knowledge. And then I did this like 2 weeks before the exam also. I was learning current affairs, doing a lot of that knowledge thing without actually seeing the exam for what it was. And I think in later attempts, second attempt, I managed to clear prelims, and then third attempt also I managed to clear prelims. I started looking at the trends. I started looking at what the past year question papers were asking. Started looking at how to arrive at that answer, what the examiner's testing. Because prelims is one of those stages where you may not know the answer, but the answer is right in front of you. And how do you arrive at that? What's decision making you need to do? And for this, it's a particular frame of mind and also a skill set that needed to be honed. So I was glad to find mentors in both Vikas sir and Right sir. In those short course, they taught me about how to arrive at certain answers.
So then definitely PYQs is the key, right? Solving for prelims, for clearing prelims, right?
Yes, sir.
And fine. So in your prelims, first of all, what were your sources? What were the static sources that you followed?
Sir, my static sources included NCERT textbooks. Sir, I think I cannot emphasize enough how much of the questions from prelims, PYQs come from that. And oftentimes we go reaching for some material that is perceived as better and more advanced. But if we should not see what the PYQs are asking, we might risk that. And for various subjects, I mostly rely on NCERTs. Newspaper reading has been a habit for me. So it's not something I had to develop from the scratch. And so then I had a general awareness of what's going on. Other than that, sir, this is also another unconventional approach that I followed, is that I did many test series, including the one at Umbrella and a few other academies, institutes, famous ones and a little minor ones, and got a sense of multiple questions and then put myself in that solving position. Okay. And then I got a variety of things, learning from the answer keys, learning from the explanations. This was also my source for prelims.
So mock test is also important. That is what you're saying, right?
Yes, sir.
And regarding what you said regarding newspapers, how much time do you think should a candidate spend on newspapers? And what would be the ideal newspaper for preparing prelims?
Sir, newspapers are important because they carry a lot of information from which some of the compilations and everything come. And I have spent about an hour or two daily reading newspapers. But again, newspaper reading can be endless. If you read it end to end, you might spend a lot of time, and most students don't know how to filter this, or maybe think everything is important. I was one of them at some point. Then I think syllabus, keywords, mapping it to what is being asked, and the trends will be your best guide to know what to take and what not to take. At least at the prelim stage, it's important to read the newspaper to know the pulse of where the things are going. But I think the importance of newspapers goes more important, like it increases as you go to the subsequent stages of the exam. And the last question about which papers I followed, I often followed two papers. One was the Hindu and one was the Indian Express.
So basically, knowing the trend is important, and anyways, PYQ will guide you through the process, right? That is it. Okay. So what about CSAT? Because now we are seeing there are a lot of people who are getting eliminated just from the CSAT round, right?
Right.
So how did you practice the CSAT paper?
Right, sir. So this is another thing that gets a lot of people out of the race even before they started, even if their knowledge, everything else was right. And I have cleared CSAT in all the 3 attempts. So I can say that is something we need to focus. Again, it's very important at this stage to have your foundations until the 10th grade for maths and your reading ability, all of this which is honed over the years. You need to sharpen them and revise. Another mistake that some people tend to do is they overly rely on some institute's CSAT techniques, and then they follow the mock test of only 1 or 2 institutes, and they get aligned so much with the style of questioning of that institute. And then when the actual UPSC paper comes, they second guess themselves in many fronts, and CSAT tests you under time limit. So I think we need to, again, at the risk of sounding redundant, PYQs and solving the entire PYQs, try it like at least 1 or 2 months. Right now, if someone is preparing, I would advise them or urge them to do, if you're getting like a score of 90 to 100, it's good to revise concepts, especially in math. Okay. And even I will do this. If I were to attempt this exam again, I will take Sir's close and Sir's classes and some other things to sharpen some major areas, like number system is one thing that is testing. It can be mastered easily, and you can, once you get that, a few questions will land in your pocket. I've relied mostly on reading comprehension as my major source of marks because my accuracy is generally high. So alignment with the paper is the key, sir.
Okay. Now coming to the mains preparation, for every student who starts with the mains preparation for the first time, how do you advise them? How should they go about preparing writing answers? Because they just write whatever is known to them, but that is not the UPSC trend, right? That is not what UPSC seeks. So how do you align yourself in writing the relevant content in your mains answers?
So as they say, hindsight is 2020. When I started out mains also, it was like I attempted it like a college exam in the way that you just said. Written what I knew about the subject or what I think would impress the examiner. I know I'm saying something unique while missing the actual demand of what the questions are asking. And so someone starting out mains, the obvious problem that they might face, especially if they have been out of touch with the academia and they have been preparing for a while and they finally got into this stage, is that they would not have the writing practice. Yeah. And now many colleges are also moving to typed assignments and so on. So this is a thing that many students these days coming do not have. So we need to get that writing practice. And ability to write under time pressure, all that has to be built like a skill. Every day you do the same thing over and over again until you master it, sir. And one more thing, if I had to say, which I learned, which was useful for me also, was brainstorming, which any mentorship, good mentors would tell you that brainstorming is the most important, where you structure the answer beforehand, before the pen touches the paper, and you're able to finish the thing in time limits. So these are the things I would tell them. And please if they say, tell them to write tests, keep writing them as soon as possible. Do not say that I have to learn more before I write. Sometimes writing is the learning. And as you write, then you will have a better understanding of what you will face in the actual exam, is what I faced. Otherwise, I would have cleared mains in my first try.
Okay. So brainstorming is the key, basically. And regarding the syllabus preparation, because the syllabus is very vast, right, in GS. So how do you go about it? That is, GS1 is there, 2, 3, 4, even ethics and essays is there. So how do you go about this preparation? Have you prepared notes for it? What is the strategy here?
So to be very honest, my notes have not been very systematic. I don't have notes for every topic of the syllabus. There are some static topics which repeat and which do not need much preparation or are not as dynamic as nature, like internal security, disaster management review. So for those, I have those standard notes, or I get some good notes which convey the content and I revise them. That is something I did. For dynamic content, I think couple of test series will tend to ask you based on some current and make you think in those words, in those viewpoints. So that is how I would have made my...
for your mains through the tests itself.
Tests and some scattered notes here and there.
Okay.
And if at all I came across a very nice article or an opinion piece in a newspaper, I would try to convert that into a mains answer, like with subheadings and proper, and keep that. And keep scanned copies of those. I do have some of that, especially in topics that I'm interested in, because then it'll give me a practice of writing.
Okay.
And it'll not make me feel like a burden. And then the same skill will carry over to other aspects. So this is what I done.
Anything specific for ethics that you did?
So ethics again is also like most of the GS papers. The GS4 ethics is a paper which is highly scoring. Many toppers have good ethics scores, and it's a paper that we can really do well. And the syllabus is quite simple, and the type of questions that can be asked from the syllabus is limited. The same things only will be asked in very different ways. So you need to have a hold on that. I had taken help from another institute. If I can...
Yeah, please.
Yes. So there was Piyush sir he was teaching at Vajiram, and I think now he's joined a different institution. So his guidance helped me write ethical answers in my paper. Although I did not suspect that we have in our foundation classes, we go through beautiful philosophical ethics classes, but that will make you a better person. But executing and writing an answer that will impress the examiner, decide them, make them feel like I should give this person marks. That is more important. And for scoring well, section A is more important than section B, is what I learned from the attempt that I did not cross mains.
Okay, so that's a very important thing that you said. That is, everyone focuses on the case study part of it. That is section B. You are saying section A is better. That is much more scoring for the overall ethics paper, right?
Yes, sir.
And what about the essay paper? Because now a lot of philosophical essays are coming, but that is an area of interest also for you. So, but how should a general student go about it?
Right, sir. So the fact that a general student is preparing for a generalist exam is an asset for them. In fact, the exam is testing people for ability to write simple, complex ideas in simple way presentable way where anyone reads what they're writing, they should nod in approval, or they should feel like, okay, this is something that I never thought about. So contrary to popular opinion and also my own understanding of the paper, where I thought we should write complex philosophical ideas in a very try to bring flowery language and a lot of that. Unfortunately, that approach did not seem to get rewards in this paper. My last mains I scored 84 marks after writing something very complex, philosophically sound, consistent, in my opinion. This time I changed my approach to be more structured. I wrote an 8-paragraph essay with clear structure, and I had taken some help from my mentors, like what he had taught in our classes, but I also went to Brijender Singh sir's class in Wajiram. He has a very structured 8-week essay program, which I would advise if someone wants to really, amp up their essay score, because I increased almost over 20 marks in this attempt.
Okay. And did your marks improve drastically from your second to the third attempt in your GS 1, 2, 3 and 4 papers?
Yes, sir.
I think. So what was the reason for that?
So the reason is, again, I stopped writing complex and essays that I would feel very happy writing about, or top answers that I would be very happy writing about, and instead focused on the demand. I started structuring my answers in a way that anyone who reads the paper will know that I'm answering the question in a very clear way, like be it that introduction, body, conclusion. But in the body also, if there are some keywords and subparts to a question, I make sure everything is addressed. And I added more points. And if there is a specific tail word like evaluate, critically evaluate, analyze, I frame my answer accordingly. So these changes actually brought about almost more than 50 marks, at least in the GS papers. Usually one of the papers in GS gets marked down. So I think GS3 I went down, but everywhere else I went up. And my optional also increased. So I think overall I've increased 113 marks compared to my last attempt.
That's very good.
Which I think I'm moving closer to what the examiner demands, but I think I can do much better. And if aspirants get this early, they might be where I am, even without wasting an entire year to figure this out.
Fine. Still, by the third attempt you went to the list. That is good enough, right? Regarding your optionals, right? So your optional is political science, and what should be the approach of students for students, especially in optional?
Sir, first I will tell what worked for me in political science, and then maybe some things which I can understand from my conversations with my peers and people who are cleared, I can talk about optional. So firstly, in my political science, the paper requires you to be very updated. It's not a small syllabus. It's a subject that has been the favorite of aspirants across many, not just years, decades. When I met some mentor recently, he said that political science was, even back in our day, it was the most preferred optional. So your competition pool is very large, and the syllabus is constantly evolving. Thanks to, at least this time, because of Donald Trump's presidency, our question paper syllabus gets updated every day. So we need to stay updated. And second, style, sir. So most optionals have a particular preferred style which is more scoring. You cannot write GS answers in political science, or you can't write like how you write your GS2 papers. There needs some depth which makes it an optional answer. Use of scholarly keywords. Keywords need to be there, scholars need to be there, and these need to be written in a simple, well-structured paragraph format which flows. And so we need to find that balance, because that seems to be the approach that wins. Apart from this, sometimes the question demands something, but we need to go beyond that. And I think many toppers who've scored more than me have done it more effectively, like interlinking concepts from across papers, bringing current and relevant examples. And thirdly, I also think if the question is asking you something about a particular topic, they also mention the criticism of that in that very answer as one of the concluding things. So all of these, if executed well evenly across the paper, would get you one of a very good score. This is how I think I can understand the PSIR paper. So I improved 51 marks in my political science optional. And now for generally in optional, the key things I found is find out what toppers are doing, refer to their copies. And if there is a particular style of approach that seems to be more rewarded generally, adopt that, bring your own ideas and arguments into that. And refer to one source or the source which you are more comfortable revising, and make those short notes, because syllabus, you get that 5 days between your GS papers and optional, and you need to revise. You cannot be studying your entire notes, which may go to 300, 400 pages. So perhaps these might help you do it. But yes, I think these are limited to art subjects, but perhaps Find good mentors. Again, they will guide you.
Now, regarding PYQs, the role of PYQs in your optional, did you solve last 5-10 years of paper? What was your strategy there?
So it's recommended in political science to solve PYQs. At least at some point, the trend was questions kept repeating. I won't say it is the case anymore because this year and last year, there were some unconventional questions and things in the paper. So there's not something that you can really, PYQs are a great way to start and prepare. Get a compilation or a book where you see model answers of PYQs, because then you can refer that and then you can refer topper copies and bring your own style to it, sir. So, but I think some optionals do reward, they repeat the questions over and over again. And if you land on that side of the board and on that particular day, the paper has some repetition, you will feel very happy, confident, and that'll, show in your way you approach the paper.
Okay, fine. Coming to your interview stage, your first interview, right? So how did you feel the board panel members were? What was your preparation style? Tell me all about it.
So the interview stage was my favorite stage.
Achha.
Because the first two stages have a lot of degree of uncertainty, a degree of unpredictability, more competition. But here you're the almost top 3,000 people there, and you have crossed a particular threshold. Now it's about you can actually go and express yourself. Mains, you might have to write certain things in a particular way, balanced answers, or structured answers in a particular way, something like that. In interview, there is some elements of that, but you have more freedom to justify yourself, present yourself, show the whole panel who you are. So it's my first interview and my experience was great. Although I did not score exceptionally well, because I think every other competition is so high that I think some of the best students turned out to be the interview appeared candidates and scored very well. But needless to say, I'm on the list because of my interview scores as well, in addition to the mains mark. And my strategy for this was, as usual, is like you submit a very long DAF, which has some keywords. Know your hometown, home state, where your parents work, what is relevant, your academic background, educational qualifications, your optional. All of this needed to be, prepared, revised once more. And here is a stage where I think you had to refer more newspapers just to get an idea of perspectives, different ways of writing answers. Presenting answers, presenting viewpoints. So it was very interesting for me. Also, I think a lot of people struggle maybe with articulating what they want to say very well. So it's advised that, you prepare an answer and then you practice the same thing over and over again in front of a mirror. I wish I had done a little more of that, because my answers, generally, I like to say a lot of content. Yeah. As you can see in this podcast, even I'm speaking a lot. Could have been more concise and more measured, like an ideal or a topper. But I think that is something everyone can work towards too.
Okay. So, as you mentioned DAF, how much percentage does your DAF determine your interview preparation? Yeah. So, how much percentage do you think they ask from the DAF?
Sir, in my interview, I think it was more or less entirely DAF based. Okay. Although my interview was right one day after the budget. Yeah. I had prepared a lot about the economic survey budget. I was updated on all that. Yeah. Interestingly, they didn't ask me anything. Yeah. But at the same time, I've seen people from the other boards, my peers who I met at the medical, they said they had a current affairs based. Yeah. Or some people had a completely random interview which was not related to their DAF nor current affairs. So it can be unpredictable, but being very strong in your DAF, having that knowledge, gives you the confidence to enter that circular hall, walk in with that confidence. Okay. It'll show in your mannerism. Otherwise, if you think that anything might happen, you enter on defensive. So instead you go on a positive and then face whatever you want. Like I think maybe a cricket analogy could help here, sir, since I think you guys are also into sports, right? Yeah. I think that is the experience, sir. Mine was DAF based, thankfully. I don't know. I can't say that, okay, this year was DAF based. Maybe next time will also be the same.
Okay, fine. Now, considering that you have cleared this exam, let's say if you had to prepare it all over once again from the start, what do you think would you have done different? Any specific area that you would have said, this I wasted time, this is a wrong approach which I should not have done, anything like that?
Yeah, so there are a few. Yeah. Especially, prelim stage, more or less, I think I've reached a level of comfort where I think this is an approach that has worked for me. Let me keep honing that approach and again. So if I were to do it all over again, I would still prepare my CSAT. I would not take it lightly. I would not be on that edge. This time I was afraid that I might miss it by a margin. Although I did clear it by a margin, still that fear you should never let that sort of thing impact your mains preparation. Because if you don't know whether you'll clear, then the small gap between prelims and mains, especially from the last 2 years, you might miss out on some things that you could have studied and prepared towards your main. So that'll be one. Second thing for mains, this I realized at the core when I actually stepped out of the exam hall this time, is that I studied so many sources, studied from my tests and all of that. What the main thing that I missed out was the syllabus, the keywords. If I just made like every word in the syllabus, if I could map it to a few content and then have some sort of a notes prepared like that, then I would not be trying to move here and there. So here this time, maybe sometimes questions I practiced in a mock test would have come, I was comfortable. Other things were, the syllabus keyword was asked and linked, but I was like, oh my god, I wish I had studied more about it. So that would be a thing I would change.
Okay.
And number 3, for interview also, I think I would, it's unpredictable, but I would also want to bolster my main score to the max. I should not be trying to look like, okay, my mains I'll do an average score, and interview with a good personality I will get, because it may be not the case. It may not be your day that day. Even if you were the best on that day, the scores may be not so high in comparison to what people are getting on some other day. So, and even for interview, I think I'd probably learn to be a little more concise, measured, structured, and be more bureaucratic, I guess.
Okay.
So perhaps these are the 3 things I would change.
Now, this is the success story that you have, right? But there are other students who are basically in this loop of writing prelims and mains and not qualifying mains, right? So, did you ever feel in your journey that you reached a breaking point? Now this is too much for me, right? Have you reached anything like that, or how did you cope up with it? Anything like that?
Sir, the exam is testing your endurance. It's testing your mental strength. And after not clearing my first mains, thankfully I was in Delhi and I had the opportunity to intern in Ministry of External Affairs to understand how the government works, which motivated me to do more. And Delhi, the aspirants and the competition there, the resources there also have provided me a space to try once more with a different approach. So that helped me, sir. But I think the most thing that grounded me and should ground probably aspirants is having a hobby. In my case, it was sports. I am a cyclist. I'm a triathlete. I like going cycling, swimming and running. And doing this every day, starting my day with this, or at least doing it 3 times a week at least during this preparation cycle, gave me that balance, gave me the positive emotions and the stress management thing that I needed. And I think I would try to make it more structured and not try to give excuses saying, let's not do this today because of this preparation. I think discipline, following a structured time schedule where I start my day with a particular way, eat good food, healthy food, and then study. I think anybody would be a more well-rounded person clearing this exam. Honestly, sir, at this time, mains is such a daunting exercise and you don't know how it goes. And since I saw few questions I was not able to complete this time, I thought maybe this is it.
Okay.
I have tried, but I am not replicating what toppers in my competition is doing. I may be no longer eligible to, be in this race. I had that feeling. But thankfully, that was just for a few days. My profession was a loss. So I went to court and started getting finding out this is what's happening in the field. Then I got a scholarship to travel to the US. So I had gone and I was trying to, build an alternate career and hedge against a possible disappointment this time as well. But thankfully, I guess the approach I followed worked and I was well above the cutoff or anything that I had seen. So I did reach the breaking point. I think a lot of people will get into this loop, but the story is to not give up, is to balance your stress, your emotions and redirect it towards a productive goal. Because ultimately tomorrow as a civil servant, that's what we will be doing over and over again. And no one's going to glorify you at the end of it. And that's something when you build it, it will be the best thing that will happen to you and the nation.
So that's actually a good point that you said. Have a hobby first where you can release your stress, or there could be stress management for it. Many people give up on their hobbies when they start the UPSC journey, right? That is there, So finally, at the end of it, did you have a mentor in this journey, right? Any mentors you had? And what is the role that mentors can play in this preparation?
Sir, thanks. I'm talking to one mentor right now. I did have a few mentors in various stages of my journey, starting from my second prelims, last year, and all the stages, me moving to Delhi and so on. The role of a mentor is important because they are usually people who have gone through the cycle or are familiar with it in some respect, seen many students like you making some mistakes, and they tell you what should be avoided, what should not be avoided. And for me, I think at least after this mains, when I was finishing my GS papers, I was so upset. I was not sure how it went. And I think calling Vikas sir, he called me and he gave me that, support boost. So I still remember that. I mean, I was not comfortable calling anybody else who I was meeting in many journey because I think they're busy people with a lot of students. So I think in that respect, I'm very grateful that somehow through my school senior Ishani, Anand, I managed to find Umbrella Academy. They had a small cohort of students, and small institutes tend to, give you more personalized attention and keep you accountable, and they can help you out a lot more than, in practically speaking. So I think that is something I'm grateful for. And if you are able to find a mentor in an area that you're not improving, all the places that I found a mentor, which I focused on, like ethics, essay, optional, and GS in general, I've improved my marks.
Okay.
So yes, I think that will be my...
Definitely mentors are important, right? So mentors are important, and especially reach out to them. There are many students who do not reach out because they think, as you said, they might be busy and all of it. But reach out, seek their time, and definitely they'll help you out.
Yes, sir. That is another thing. So today also I met a friend. She was not very comfortable sharing what she actually felt or asking advice from the mentor. So I think it's a two-way street. They establish the trust and they're able to talk to each other, or at least as a student, keep asking. And there's a word in Hindi, dimag khao inka. To keep troubling them, keep asking them, and then build that bond, and that's how you can gain the most, because if you're not doing it, somebody else is doing it. And in competitive exam, that's most necessary.
Fine. Finally, last, the Umbrella Academy, right? What did you think of the courses that we sent, right? So you were a part of our prelims and mains mentorship program. So what is your opinion on the same, and how could we improve these programs?
Yes, sir. As I repeatedly said, and it's just an honor to be here. I traveled all the way to Hyderabad just to meet my mentors for the first time here, because this academy has helped me in a lot of ways. Prelims uncertainty to an extent has been largely minimized, and I was part of the prelims elimination course. I was also part of your CSAT course, sir, to improve some of the concepts. So all of this, even though I took it online, it has helped me and given me that confidence about on the prelim stage. And mains also, my first mains was the entire course, how to write answers, everything was through this. The weekly, like every day at 7 p.m. we had a class, and I was tired after that, but then we still learn, sit and we brainstorm, and then we think about various answers, and for that it has been very helpful. Improvements are always a subjective thing, and for me, I got what I wanted. But I guess I hope everyone continues to get what all the rankers have got all these years. Umbrella Academy reaches more students and has more reach from all backgrounds, sir. So really grateful. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Exceptionally grateful.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.